This is an interview with Mr. Robert C. Jones from the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute's Oral History Project. I'm Dr. Horace Huntley, we're presently at the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute. Today is April 23rd, 1997. Mr. Jones, I want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule to come and talk with us today about the movement. I want to start just by asking you some questions about your background, your family. Where were you born?
I was born in Marion, Alabama.
Marion.
In Perry County.
Perry County, yeah. Were your mother and father originally from Perry County?
Yes, they was born and raised there, I do believe.
Is that right? How many brothers and sisters did you have?
Well, there was 4 boys and 1 girl.
And where did you fit in that? Were you the baby?
No, there's 2 underneath me. We had a sister underneath me and a baby brother, and the other 2 was over there.
Okay. How old were you when you came to Birmingham?
I guess I was around 8, 9 years old.
Okay, so you started first grade then in Marion.
Yeah, I started 1st grade in Marion. I don't remember too much of it. I went to Carver Elementary when I moved.
Carver Elementary here.
Yeah.
What do you remember about Carver?
Well, I remember it was down near, I think it had a kind of a scrapyard right next to it. And you used to walk to school every day up the railroad tracks and back home in the evening, and big grassy field outside, and just growing up being happy as a kid.
Yeah. What grade were you when you came to Carver?
I think I was in about the 3rd or 4th grade.
Well, how was that transition then from your school in Marion to Carver?
Well, from that area where the houses in Bessemer was much closer together than back out in the country, and how it would maybe half a mile apart, and riding the bus back and forth to school, and usually it's just certain small amount of kids in certain areas. It's quite different from Bessemer.
Yeah, so you rode the bus while you were in Marion.
Yes.
And you were able to walk to school?
We were able to walk to school where my parents were working and getting up that time of morning, and being kids, we just in a hurry to get out the house, just walking. As a group, sisters and brothers and the neighbors' kids, we all walked together, and we came back home that evening together.
How far did you?
I guess probably about a mile.
Yeah. How much schooling did your parents have?
Well, I don't remember recalling too much of it. Very little. I don't think either one of them. No, my father didn't. I think my mother, she finished school.
What kind of work did they do?
Well, my mother, she was a housewife and maid. My father, he was a steel worker.
Okay.
And Pullman Standard investment.
Pullman Standard. Okay. Yeah. Growing up in Bessemer, you went to Carver Elementary, and then you went to Dunbar
Yes.
High School. Dunbar's a rather noted
yes.
high school. We used to play you guys down in Bessemer Stadium.
Oh, yes, never forget that.
Yeah, what was it like going to Dunbar?
Well, Dunbar, it was a very nice school. We had a principal there, Abram, which was a tough type of guy, but he was fair, and like during that time, people respect one another. He was the type of guy, he stood out on the campus in the morning, we'd come to school, and he knew he was going to be late every day, so he'd stand right there and wait on you, If he miss you or you run by him, you come to class late on that day and pick you up,
Right.
We really enjoyed going to school there.
Did you participate in any extracurricular activities?
Oh yeah, we played football there. It's my favorite sport, and we did quite well, like 2 years straight in a row there.
You had some powerhouses.
Powerhouse.
You were there when Scott was there?
Scott.
No, his last name was Scott.
Jesse Scott.
He played basketball.
Oh yeah, Jesse Scott. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
What is he doing now?
I think he worked with the railroad. I do believe. Very good basketball player.
Yeah. He was quite an athlete.
Yeah. Ralph Elvis. We had a very powerful team back in that time. Yes.
Yeah. So when you then finished high school, what did you do?
I finished high school. I got a scholarship out to Miles College, and I went out there. And like my second year out there, I think I was captain of the football team. I did quite well. Quite well.
Yeah. Well, did you have aspirations to play professionally?
That was my intention. When I finished high school, we went down to Dillon University, and I think Ralph and leave. The other guy went down, and the fellow was kind of jealous of us coming out of a different area, so they gave us a hard time. So Ralph and myself, we came back to Birmingham and went out to Miles, walked out there one day, they gave us a pair of shoes, we started practicing the same day. Yeah, just being away from home, I think.
Yeah, right. Miles had pretty good football.
Yeah, we did pretty well, just be local talent, you know.
Right. Yeah, there was a brother from Roosevelt that played quarterback out there. Jackson, was he out there?
Yeah, Jackson, yes.
Yeah.
Jackson, yes.
His brother, I knew his brother. He went to Brighton.
Yes, I heard it.
Yeah. Now, at Miles College, as an athlete, this was a time that a lot of activity was going on because the movement was happening at the time. How did you happen to get involved with the movement?
Well, we first got involved, I think, as a group of most of the football players in the evening after we finished, scrimmaging, we would come downtown Birmingham and get on the bus and ride back down to Vinesville and get off. And most of our cars was parked there. Once a day we used to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you were doing that just to test?
Yeah, we were still start testing.
Did you ever have any difficulty on the bus as a result of that?
Well, from that time we had difficulty. We was actually get up and move to the back. We did. I guess being a bunch of young men, black men on the bus driver, he asked us to. We didn't respond to him. Just being alone like that, he just didn't force it during that time. It was quite early in the movement during that time also.
Right. So you would actually defy the bus driver by not moving?
By not moving one bit.
Is that right?
One bit.
But did you have any repercussions from any of the other people on the bus, either black or white, as a result of not moving?
No, most of your white people during that time, they would get up and go as far to the front as they could. And once they did that, somebody from the back would get in the seat and move up. They had this little sign that separate the seats, And we made our point to go in and sit right in front of that sign. We didn't go
in front of the sign?
Right in front of that sign.
Oh, so you would move the sign and sit in the back of it?
One guy would get on and sit in front of the sign, he'd move it and put it up front. The next guy behind him, he sit here, he did it and move it up to the next seat. That's what we did for a while. And we got to the front seat and somebody took it off and laid it down on the seat.
Now, these were football players?
Yes.
Pretty big guy.
Yeah, yes.
And you did that, that was an organized effort?
That was strictly organized.
Who organized it?
Well, that was myself and I think Robert Walker, and he played football. I think there was Edward Foster, and there were three other, I can't recall their name right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, why did you all make that determination to do that at that particular time?
Well, during that time, Dr. King, he hadn't really came into this area yet. Speaking of the movement, I mean, what the law was, what could do and could not do against the law, but to segregate, I think the Supreme Court's land, they came down with a law, was stating that we were just testing it during that time.
Were you a member of any organization?
No, just going to school, student.
Did you have any kind of repercussions from your coach or from anybody else at Miles College, any of the teachers?
Well, usually during that time when we started doing stuff like that, we was told, man, y'all, you're going to get in trouble, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. I guess we being young men and just determined to see this thing, change, we really didn't care.
And did you do it more than once?
More than, up until we went down to, I think, Carolina Park here, I think about 7 of us. We did that up until then. One evening after practice, we got together, went to sit in the park, used to sing, had the signs up, singing religious songs, and sitting there until, I think, by the third night or so, the Birmingham Police Department came out with a big paddy wagon and arrested all of us.
So you were there in the park?
In the park,
singing.
At night, by 8 or 9 o'clock at night, just singing, bothered nobody.
Was anybody else in the park at the time?
It might be somebody walking through or just sitting, but we just there, just singing just as loud as we could.
Well, what was the purpose of that?
This singing was, we will overcome, hate decide, segregation, it's not right, and everybody had a sign, saying something concerning, the movement.
Was this at the time that the mass meetings were taking place? Because they were having mass meetings,
In some areas, we really hadn't got the wind of that yet. We kind of was on our own at that time until they came out tonight and arrested all those carriers down and photographers, fingerprinters, and then released us.
What did they arrest you for?
I think disorderly assembly or something of that nature.
I see. And what did they do? Were there more than one or two of them? Did they come in force? Did they come prepared to struggle if necessary?
Well, they came prepared. They had a big little steel paddy wagon ahead, I think about 2 carloads of them. And I think I really can't remember how many won, but it was enough. If we had started anything, we would have had a problem. We just peacefully went and got into the back of the wagon and went on downtown. The rest, we hadn't done anything. We had to release it. We knew that.
And that was at night?
That was at night.
Where did they take you?
The Birmingham City Jail.
The city jail. And you said fingerprinted you, photographed you?
And took address and name down.
And how long were you there? How long did you stay?
I guess 3 or 4 hours. I think they was really had something else to do. They didn't want to hold us, I didn't think, but they released us. We went back to the park, went home. We came back that far at night though.
And was this a nightly occurrence?
This is a nightly thing. Each night we would go in that park and just sit and sing.
Was this during 1963?
This was in 62.
62. Okay. Then, 62 also was the year that Miles College students developed the selective buying campaign downtown.
Same time. Yeah, those 5 or 10 stores go in and sit on the counter. That was right after we had done this. Right after that.
So you guys were sort of on the beginning.
Beginning of it.
Yeah.
Then after then, we would arrest and release. And the following day, I found my name and address was in the Bessemer newspaper. I lived in Bessemer during that time. And we were still coming back to the park. And it was not one of the cold months, and it got kind of chilly. I told the fellows I'm going home and put on just some warmer clothes and I'm coming back. So I got to the house that night. It was about 9 o'clock or so, and went in and get ready to go get some warm clothes to put on to leave to go back to the park. Somebody knocked on the door, and my mother said, just my mother and my sister now was there. And my mother said, "Who is it?" The guy said, "The Birmingham the police department." She said, "What you want?" Says, "William Jones home?" She said, "No." See, during that time, my father cut hair uptown Best in the barber shop. He used to get home 10, 11 o'clock after they closed. She said, "No, he's not here." Say, "So what do you want?" She said, "Well, can we come in?" She said, "No." I said, "He'll be home after a while, so wait till he get here." And by that time, somebody kicked the back door in, and they kicked the front door, and they came in. So my mother, and my sister, and I, we got together. He said, "Boy," is your name Robert Jones?" I said, "No, sir." He said, "What's your name?" I said, "Elbert Jones." That's one of my older brothers, He said, when were you born?" I forget the year I told him, but right around the age of my older brother, He thought about that. He must figure it through his head, see if I'm lying. He said, "No," I said, "You lying." I said, "You come on." I said, "You going with us?" My mother said, "No." I said, "He ain't going nowhere." So they had some sticks or something. They started swinging us. My mother, she tripped. My sister fell, so I just got over the top of it, kind of shielded. And I guess I caught one on the back of my hand here, I guess, covering my face. I guess that's a reaction, I guess. And my mother, she got her leg broken in the incident. And it went on inside my home, yes. And it went on for so long, I guess the noise and the screaming and the hollering, and they left. Somebody said, "Come on, let's go." I guess he had been there too long, in that area. It's kind of an area where you come in, you go up the hill and make a circle around, and you come out. There was no other way out.
Is this in Bessemer or in Roosevelt?
No, this was, it was in Bessemer, called Bessemer Heights, what they call it, Bessemer Heights.
Is that north or
just
south?
Below Bessemer, Jonesboro?
Jonesboro,
just next to the west of Jonesboro, Bessemer Heights.
Oh, okay.
And after they left, I knew my next door neighbor there, and my father had a weapon, but I didn't know where it was. I never, guns wasn't a thing with me. And I went outside, they had left, and my next door neighbor went over and asked for a gun, and he said, what happened? I told him what had taken place. He said, well, we couldn't come out. The whole neighborhood, I don't know how many cars it was. My aunt lived across the street, and another house here, about 3 or 4 houses in that area, and they said, we couldn't come out though. There's somebody standing on my porch. Said, man, don't take your head out door, no bunch of dirty names, I won't not repeat. Don't stick your head out the door. And he said, that's the reason we couldn't come to help y'all. I said, we heard you screaming and hollering, but so was nothing we could do. By that time, my next door neighbor had gave me his gun, old rusty gun. I knew it was no good. And by that time, the police showed up and told me, said, since I had the weapon in my hand.
So these were not policemen?
No, they were not policemen.
They just said that they were police.
Yes, they weren't policemen. The way they were dressed and the way they looked, they wasn't no weapon. And, well, it could have been too, what you don't know. And by the time they come up with the flashing lights, and by me having a weapon in my hand, so I had to put my hand up and lean across the car. They searched me. They didn't arrest me for having a weapon, And they found out what had happened, so they released me there and went on about their business. Then after that, I guess the FBI, somebody got involved in it, and we was escorted to school there for about a week, back and forth, I guess for safety reasons. And my mother, she ended up in the Birmingham hospital there with a broken leg, and during the time she was there, they had to medicate her because she said, I saw 2 of them in the hallway. Some of them had went to the hospital there to see.
But what was the purpose? Why did they select your family to attack?
Well, see,
because of your involvement?
Because of my involvement, my name was placed in the Birmingham newspaper. Okay. I guess was maybe it had been a certain place or so, the address and everything, where I lived and everything. Somebody went to the newspaper and just said, this is one of them right here, say, let's go and get it. But just one for my mother and sister, I don't think I'd be here today, They really, they would take one another, but they stood up for me.
Right.
Yes.
So that was,
yes, I never forget that.
Yeah, that's quite a story because people coming and kicking in your back and front door, and just you, your mother, and your sister being there.
Yes.
And then do you remember how many?
Well, I think it was 2 that came in the back with drawn weapons, and the light wasn't on in the front room. It was kind of dark. I think that's what saved us mostly. It was a little 3-room house with a bed sitting crossways the door. When my mother fell, the bed was here and the wall was here, and my sister fell. She was right on my mother, and just for me facing them, they couldn't see anything. Yeah. I think that what really saved us because they just swinging in the dark, they didn't know what they was doing.
Well, were you ever involved in any other activities after that attack on your family?
Well, after that, I went back to school, and the previous summer, and I used to work for the best park and recreation board. They built a swimming pool out there in Bessemer, and that fall and summer we went back, but I didn't go back out because I kind of stayed close to my mother, my sister and I both did. We kind of sit back some, but the following summer there. The Park and Recreation Board, I went back for my job for that next summer. They told me they couldn't hire me anymore, They dropped me from their role. And the other job, I couldn't find no employment whatsoever. So March, I think it was 63, I joined the military. I went in 63 and I stayed until 75 when I came back. Here, went back to school, and on the job that I'm on now.
Well, what was the military like?
Oh, the military, it was much better. There was some of that racial atmosphere there, but it was much better. That's the idea, just being me, who I was. I think they knew who I was. I said I take myself away from my family, and maybe they just let them alone, with Rob. That's one of the reasons I left. Yeah. They were really after me.
Right. So did you finish Miles?
No, I was in my 3rd year. When I was planning on going back to school after I came back, but I got out of the military and I went into commercial drafting, and then for about 2 years, and I came out of that. I I drove tractor trailer for about a year, and I got a job with the government. So that's
Well, what was it like going from Bessemer, Alabama? Now you joined the military, so now you're meeting people from all over the country.
all over.
How did you fit into that set?
Well, you usually most of your basic training camp, you find most of your NCO, most of the black sergeants or so, and there was a few whites there. And me being fresh out of school and weighing something like 240 pounds and muscular build, and I really didn't have no problem. They kind of put me in a position where of authority there, you know, and like squad leaders or something like that. And really, most of the other NCO, they were white. It was too many of the black NCO we with though. They really didn't come out with anything, you know. Although it might have been in their mind, but they really, you know, kind of held back.
Right.
And it wasn't really as bad as it was, you know, here in Birmingham.
So, did you enjoy your stay in the military?
Oh, I enjoyed it very much.
Were you in the Army?
In the Army, I went there for 3 years. I wasn't intending to stay. It got to traveling and seeing people, meeting people, all races, you know. One kid up out there, we all going to the same club together, sitting down talking, dancing with the same girls. You know, it was quite a different atmosphere than what I had grew up with, you know. So I just played Europe and, you know, back and forth. And I just stayed longer than I should have, I think.
How long did you stay in?
13 years.
13 years.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to get out after that?
I got a medical discharge. You know.
Okay. And what did you do after you got out of the military?
Oh,
You came back to Bessemer?
Back to Bessemer. Now I lived with mother for a while. I went to school and then got married and just went kind of on my own since then.
So do you work for someone else now, or do you have your own business?
No, I work for Ventures Administration here in Birmingham, on the South Side.
Oh, the VA. Oh, okay. And how long have you been there?
Oh, about 8 years.
Many times when I remember when I finished high school, I joined the military too, and one of the things that I always wanted to do is to see how, you know, what it was like sitting in front of the bus. You know, what it was like just being perceived as a person. You know, was that part of your search when you went into the military? Did you go into an area where it was integrated or desegregated at the time, coming from an totally segregated society?
Yeah, I tell you, incident happened one time in Europe. I met some German guys in the little club down there, and I'm talking. I know I speak a little German, you know, and I guess by me being a big black guy, you know, they kind of took to me, these little small guys. And we went out, they carried me out to a park, and so back out of the country. So I think they carried me out there for a reason. And kind of had on a swimsuit, we laying out in the sun, and I was laying there, and this little German kid comes up, and he starts, you know, rubbing on me, and they knew that I would be taken kind of strange, you know, and everybody was just looking at me, you know, and it made me feel kind of good in a way, but I knew what it was. They hadn't seen really a black person out in that part of the country, you know. It really was a strange sight for them, you know.
Yeah.
And
so how did that relationship develop?
Between me and the fellows?
Yeah. Was that a lasting relationship, or was it just sort of a one-time thing?
No, see that I think they knew some black athletes back in the state. And they started asking me. I guess I knew some. I looked like I might have been somebody because of my size, the way I was built, you know. And they become a friend to them. They kind of everywhere they went, they kind of carried me with them. And kind of like stood out, you know. They was proud just to have me along with, you know. But it took me kind of strange. Well, being German, it's a lighter race, but it was quite different, you know. And then running into some of the white fellows there, I've been working with them, and they right along beside it. And things just kind of, I couldn't forget where I came from, but things just kind of, a big, deep racial thing kind of subsided or something.
Did you ever consider living there after you got out of the military?
No, I never did. Maybe come home and went back, but once I left and came back into the States, things had changed quite a bit. At that time I had left. When I left and came back, it was a 360-degree turn.
How long were you away from home before you came back?
I guess about 6 years.
6 years.
About 6 years.
So from what, 63 to about 70?
About 69,
Yeah.
7.
Well, there were a lot of changes that took
Yeah,
place during that time.
yeah, sure. We were riding the buses up front, and I said, well, so somebody paid for all this, you know. There's a lot of people took a whole lot just to things to change like they did. It just didn't come overnight.
Right.
There was some struggles, some people lost their lives, some people were hurt, some people crippled today because of that. Even my mother, her leg didn't never straighten out from that. She always walked with a limp afterwards. Every time I see her walking, I remember that night.
And those guys would never
said with nothing, never said nothing, you know, they don't, just like it never happened. Never.
Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us before we conclude this? I know you've had a very active life in terms
Very active life.
but and growing up in Bessemer and being impacted upon by that society, the society of the times, how did you view then other white people once you got away from here? Because I know with the kinds of things that you had gone through with your mother and your family and all, there must have been some kind of resentment.
Yeah, that was right. In the military, most of your southern, the white soldiers, you know, you could tell, you know, from the way the conversation that you have with them, and there was times you hear this remarks, you know, to let you know where you stood with them. And there's some of you, the white soldiers there, that were from some of your northern countries, that this thing wasn't really that fully blown yet. Oh, those are people that, you know, I clung to mostly, you know. The one that would approach me, the rest of it, they wouldn't have anything to do with, you know, and they'll let you know that too. Yeah. So it changed. Those type of people would change. Well, I had, we would say a resentment, but you kind of shied away from that thing. You been through so much with these type of people, and you're in a position where you didn't have to deal with them, you know, and you just went where the peace was. You know? Yeah. At that time, you know, I was ready to really blow up, you know, and I didn't need to do that in the position that I was in, you know. So being a little smart upstairs, I kind of did something a little different.
Right.
Let them know where I stood, you know, and they respect me for that.
Mr. Jones, I want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule. You've been very helpful, and keep doing what you're doing.
I want to keep doing what I'm doing.
Okay.
Yes.